There is an island in the middle of the Atlantic that grows food it has no business growing. It has no rivers, not one that runs all year, no lakes, no reliable rain. In a bad stretch, the sky can withhold its water for years at a time. Most of what the people here eat is not even grown on the island. It arrives by ship because the land cannot feed them on its own. And yet, climb up into the valleys and you find them. Green fields, rows of corn standing in dark soil, beans climbing between the stalks, crops growing on the slopes of a place that, by every measure, should be nothing but bare rock and dust. So how do you farm where there is no water? How do you pull a harvest out of a land with no river to draw from and rain that might not fall for years? The answer is one of the most stubborn, clever things a people has ever done with almost nothing. Because the trick here is not finding water. It is refusing to let a single drop of it escape. Think about how farming works where you live. Somewhere upstream there is a river, or a reservoir, or rain that falls often enough to trust. Water is a thing you draw from, a background fact you never question. Now take the river away. Take the rain down to almost nothing, and make even that unreliable. Leave the fields under a hard sun on a slope of volcanic rock. That is the ground these people were handed, and instead of walking away from it, they went to war with it. This is Cape Verde, 10 islands off the coast of West Africa, a country whose entire history is a long argument with drought. The easy answer is the one you are already thinking. Just irrigate. Pipe water to the fields and be done with it. And on almost any farm on Earth, that is exactly what you would do. But here, there is nothing to pipe from. No river runs down to the crops. The groundwater is thin and quickly drained. And the little fresh water they do manage to wring out of the fog on the ridges and the sea on the coast is drinking water. Far too scarce and too expensive to ever pour onto a field of corn. So they could not bring water to the farm. That option simply did not exist, which left them with a single, almost impossible path. If you cannot bring water to the crops, then you have to make the crops live on the only water there is, the rain that falls on the land itself. The little of it, the unreliable, once a year, might not come at all rain. They had to farm that, and nothing else. If people wringing life out of an impossible land is the kind of thing you are here for, subscribe. There is a lot more of it coming. The first half of the answer is a gamble, and it is a brutal one. The staple crops here are maize and beans, and they are planted together in the same field at the same time. There is old wisdom in that pairing. The tall corn gives the beans something to climb, and the beans, like all their family, quietly feed the soil with the nitrogen the corn craves. Two crops that prop each other up and ask less of the exhausted ground than either would alone. On a land this poor, you cannot afford to grow anything the wasteful way. Even the choice of what to plant beside what is a survival calculation worked out over generations. They are rain-fed. No irrigation, no backup, no safety net. Everything depends on a rainy season that, in a good year, might last only a few weeks, and in a bad year might not really arrive at all. So the whole country watches the sky. When the first real rain of the season finally comes, it is a signal, and everyone plants at once, racing to get the seed in the ground while the soil is wet. And then they wait, and they hope. For a few weeks, the whole rhythm of life bends around it. Fields that sat empty and cracked for months fill with people. Families working the soil together while the window is open, because a day lost is a day of moisture gone. There is hope in it and dread in equal measure. Because everyone here remembers a year when the rain teased them, brought the seed up green, and then simply stopped, and they had to stand and watch the whole crop and the whole year's food die slowly in the ground under a sun that would not quit. If the rain holds long enough, the corn grows, the beans climb, and there is food. If the rain stops early, the crop withers in the field and the year is lost. The yields, even in a decent year, are painfully low, a fraction of what a farmer somewhere wetter would take for granted. This is not farming for abundance. It is farming for survival, and every single season is a bet placed against the sky. But the gamble alone would never be enough, because there is a second, crueler problem hiding inside the first. It is not just that the rain is scarce. It is how it behaves when it finally comes. When rain does fall on Cape Verde, It does not drift down in gentle showers that soak slowly into the fields. It arrives hard and fast and violent, dumping onto steep, bare volcanic slopes with almost nothing growing to hold it. And so it does what water on a bare hillside always does. It runs. It gathers into a flash flood and tears down the ravines toward the sea, and within a few short hours, the rain that could have fed the crops for a season is gone, poured back into the ocean, taking the precious topsoil with it. If you have ever seen one of these floods, you do not forget it. A dry ravine that has not held water in months becomes, in minutes, a churning brown torrent, loud and fast and strong enough to roll rocks along its bed. It is a strange and cruel thing to watch a desert island nearly drown in the very water it is dying for. The rain the farmers prayed for all year arrives all at once, in a form that destroys more than it gives, and then it is gone, leaving the ground cracked and dry again, as if it had never come at all. The land gets one gift of water a year, and its own shape throws most of that gift straight away. And this is where the real genius of Cape Verde reveals itself, because they looked at that problem. Rain that arrives once, violently, and escapes in hours. And they decided they were going to stop it. Not the rain, the escape. For the last half-century, this has been the great quiet project of the country, reshaping the land itself so that when the water comes, it cannot get away. And they have done it, hillside, by hand. And when you grasp the scale of it, it stops looking like farming and starts looking like something closer to re-engineering a whole country. This was not a handful of clever farmers with a good idea. It was an entire nation, across generations, cutting steps into thousands of slopes and stacking stone across every valley that could carry a flood. A visitor sees terraced green hillsides and thinks only that they are pretty. What they are actually looking at is 50 years of a people physically rebuilding their island so it would stop throwing away the one gift of water it ever gets. They carve the slopes into terraces. Steps cut across the face of the hill, each one a small flat shelf that catches the running water and holds it long enough to sink into the soil instead of racing past. Down in the valleys and along the paths the floods take, they build check dams. Low walls of stone, hundreds of them across the islands, set right in the throat of the water's escape route. Each little dam slows the rushing flood, spreads it out, and forces it to pause and soak downward into the ground, quietly recharging the wells and springs below instead of vanishing into the sea. It is a beautifully simple idea. A single low wall of stacked stone cannot stop a flood, and it is not trying to. It just slows it, holds it back for a moment, and gives the water time to do the one thing a flood never does on its own: stand still long enough to sink. Multiply that by hundreds of small dams strung down every valley, and a flood that used to reach the sea in an afternoon now spends days seeping into the island instead, refilling the wells that a village will drink from and water its fields with for months to come. And across the open hillsides they dig half-moons and contour furrows and small catch-basins, little scoops in the earth, each one a trap to hold a share of the rain exactly where it falls. Step back and look at what that adds up to, and it is astonishing. They have turned an entire landscape into a sponge, a whole island, terraced and dammed and furrowed, engineered from the ridgelines down so that the one violent gift of rain each year is caught, slowed, and pressed into the ground instead of thrown away. They did not find a new source of water. They took the only water they had, and they refused to let it leave. And then, on top of all that, comes the finishing touch, making every captured drop count. In more and more fields now, the water is delivered through drip irrigation, thin lines that release it slowly, right at the root of each plant, wasting almost nothing to evaporation or runoff. On a normal farm that is just good practice. Here, where every liter had to be ambushed out of a passing storm, it is the difference between a field that lives and a field that dies. To hold it all together, they plant, too. Not just crops, but guardians. Rows of hardy, drought-tough plants like aloe and pigeon pea along the edges of the fields and terraces, their roots gripping the thin soil so that when the flood does come, the earth stays put instead of washing away. Even the planting is a form of defense. If a whole island turned into a sponge to catch the rain is the kind of clever you came here for, do me a favor and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep going. And none of this is a hobby or a quaint tradition kept alive for the tourists. It is survival, organized at the scale of a nation. Terracing and water catching have been at the very center of the country's farming for 50 years, a deliberate, generational campaign to hold the land together and coax food out of it. Because everyone here knows what the alternative looks like. When the rains failed in the past and there was nothing to catch and nothing to eat, this land did not just go hungry. It emptied. Droughts turned into famines, and famines drove people onto ships and away forever. Every terrace cut into a hillside is, in the end, a wall built against that. The numbers behind that are grim. In the worst famines of the past, drought killed people here in the tens of thousands. In one stretch in the 20th century, something close to a quarter of everyone on the islands. Those who survived often left, until more Cape Verdeans lived scattered across the world than remained at home. So the terracing was never really about a slightly better corn yield. It was about breaking the oldest and deadliest cycle in the country's history. No rain, no food, no reason to stay. Every wall of stone on those hillsides is a quiet vote to remain. It is worth being honest about the cost of it. This is punishing, endless work. Terraces and check dams are built by hand, and the land does not hold them for you. The floods gnaw at them, and they have to be repaired and rebuilt, season after season, year after year. And even after all of it, the harvests are still small, and Cape Verde still has to import most of the food on its tables. By the cold numbers, the land loses. It cannot feed its own people. But that is the wrong way to measure it, because the choice was never between a poor harvest and a rich one. It was between a poor harvest and no harvest at all, between a family that grows something on its own ground and a family that has nothing and no reason to stay. Every ear of corn that comes off those terraced slopes is a small, hard-won victory pulled out of a land that was trying its best to give nothing. So this was never really a story about corn or beans or dams. It is a story about what people do when the land itself is against them. They were handed no rivers, no lakes, and a sky that gives its water once a year and then tries to snatch it back. Anyone can farm where the water comes to them. It takes something else entirely to farm where you have to hunt the water down, trap it, and guard it on a bare volcanic slope in the middle of the ocean. They did not wait for better land. They rebuilt the land they had, one terrace and one stone dam at a time, until it would hold onto just enough of the sky to feed them. And here is the part worth taking with you, wherever you live. What Cape Verde has been doing for 50 years, slowing the water down, spreading it out, sinking it into the ground before it can run off, is exactly what a drying world is now scrambling to relearn. As rains grow more violent and less reliable in more and more places, the old, patient art of catching water where it falls, of terraces and check dams and living soil, is quietly becoming the future. These islands were simply forced to learn it early because they had no other choice. And the core of it is something anyone can understand. Do not chase water, and do not waste it. Slow it down, spread it out, and give it time to sink into the ground before it can run away. That one idea, scaled from a single garden bed to an entire mountainside, is what keeps this island alive. It needs no concrete dam, no pump, no power grid. Just an understanding of how water moves and the patience to build against it, one stone at a time, which leaves one last question hanging over all of it. They pulled shelter out of bare stone. They pulled water out of the fog and the sea. They pulled a harvest out of a land with no rivers and almost no rain. But it is still not enough to fill every plate. So when the ground gives all it can and the country still goes hungry, they turn to the one thing this island has always had without limit, the ocean all around them. Subscribe, and that is exactly where we are going next.